All right, so this is the last lesson of new stuff for this chapter. So as should be obvious, we'll be taking the mastery very soon. Here's what the week looks like to answer Aiden's question specifically. We're not reviewing your posters today because I know some people needed a little bit more time, or some people said I didn't get time to comment on people. Use AO or extensions to do whatever you want with your posters before Wednesday. Okay? Tomorrow, we will be working on closure in class, and then whatever's left over will be homework. Wednesday, we'll be reviewing the posters and taking any questions from any of the chapter. And I don't know that we'll have groups present. We'll probably just potentially do a little walk around. Then, Thursday, Friday will be our mastery. Okay, and that's when I'm going to collect all your homework. And if you've noticed, I haven't put the Chapter 6 homework in math yet. I think I'm just going to do it one giant grade. Just one big old, did you do your Chapter 6 homework? So I've got them in a stack. I'm missing a bunch. I know some people that I have, others that I don't. But I might just do it as one giant assignment to keep it from being multiple different things in your math.
That's a lot.
Riley? So those would then, of course, be quarter 4 grades. Yep. Yeah, so I was hoping to squeeze it into quarter 3, but there's no point in just forcing it, to make it happen. Now, what I will tell you is the group masteries that you'll be getting back tomorrow, because today we got to cover this lesson, we got to wrap stuff up. Tomorrow, you guys are just working on closures, so that makes more sense to do the masteries. Your team masteries from Friday that you'll get back tomorrow, if your team got a progressing, there's a separate individual assignment. Short, but same with the Chapter 5 follow-up. If your team got a progressing, you have to do the follow-up, and that's quarter 3. So that's your last quarter 3 grade, is that team test. But you'll have those back tomorrow, and then you will have time tomorrow. You could even just do it during class if you want. Other questions before we dive in? So late people, my first thing I said was we're not waiting for late people because we would like time to start the homework if possible. Yes?
So in our chapter 5 follow-up,
yeah. I wanted you to turn that in a week ago.
What?
So we all see how well
I turned that in, but I'm saying
I have a bunch of stuff to get back. If you turn to your Chapter 5 follow-up, but I'm confused about yours specifically. I don't know if you did corrections or what's going on, or if you were gone and I didn't have a chance to hand it back, but we need to chat. So you asked me that specifically. I remembered that I needed to talk to you. All right, but today we are talking about the most efficient strategy for solving, which my goal is we'll have time to work on your homework because we've already been having these conversations about choosing efficient strategies. This is where my teaching kind of doesn't 100% line up with CPM. I like to explain things to you guys when it feels organic, when it feels natural. We've already talked about the algebra process, right? We've already talked about the blah property of equality, and we've already pretty much stopped using algebra tiles. At least we've stopped requiring you to use them. Note on that, since we're moving on beyond the algebra tiles, they're down there on that bottom shelf, but that's where they live, as opposed to being up on the top shelf. That's active stuff. So if you want algebra tiles, get them, but they're down there now. Cool? Down there. They live there. They'll be there forever until next year's group needs them again. So, and if you move them, put them back, please. All right, so Nick is presented with this equation, 3x minus 6 equals 27. And go ahead and write down his equation if you would for me, please. 3x minus 6. My smartboard won't hook back up. There we go. Equals 27. Hello. Now, who can explain? We'll go ahead and do volunteer for right now. Nah, let's use random cards. Let's see who's awake this morning. Eva. Can you explain what he did there, if it's right or wrong, and why he did it? Yeah, so that plus 6, the thing he's got circled, why did he do what he did? We want to remove the 6. Ooh, Aiden's got you. Say it louder. Negative 6, right? Please ignore the 8th graders.
We don't go to class anymore.
Apparently not. Your life consists of playing Dev. Devin would be very happy. By the way, he should be here today. I know last week we didn't end up with any Go Club.
Yeah.
So we added the 6 to get rid of the negative 6, right? Any questions on that? Then Brendan, why did he do the next thing that he did?
Because it was 3x and you get x equals something you have to divide by 3.
Yeah. We want only the value of a single x. So Brendan can maybe process in his head, oh, 3 times something equals 33, that must be 11. But we got to show the work. So guys, this is me trying to prep you for your mastery. If that was a question in your mastery, that's exactly the work that should go with it. Okay, do not skip those steps. You want to write everything out. So Nick's solution here is good, right?
Yeah.
So Thea, how do I check it? If somebody said check that solution, how do we check it? Somebody, so Sophia, let's say you told somebody x is 11, and they're like, I don't trust you, but I can prove it to you. Okay, but they still don't trust you. They're like, yeah, but you did this, so.
Make them do it.
There was a way that we talked about to check our solution. It involves this fancy math word called substitution. You want to pass it off? Or do you know? Phone a friend?
You changed the x's into each 11.
Ooh, if we want to prove this, we change every instance of x, into 11, which here there's only one of them. You got to watch out when there's multiple. So to check this, if on the mastery I said prove your answers right or verify your answers right by showing your check process, we would do 3 times 11. And that's 33 minus 6. If this is true, we are good. Woohoo! Bless you. Questions? Are we sure? So write down the algebra that supports how we can solve through this equation math. So Nick has it started here. He's got it represented here. I want to know how you're going to solve this. And there are multiple correct ways to do this. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes. You choose whatever you think is right, and then we'll talk about it. And you can talk with your teammates if you want. 3 groups of 2x and 4.
Wait, so we're just writing it out and
And then, yeah, and then solve it. So what is x that makes this true? 3 groups of 2x plus 4. I'm going to write it up here so it's bigger. Equals negative 6. I don't know why my projector's so loud today. In case you are thinking that it's loud, I'm thinking the same thing. Could we start by distributing that 3?
Yes.
Do we have to start that way?
No.
Ooh, so there's multiple ways we can do this. We do not have to start that way. What could we do instead to start?
You can distribute.
Were these extras that you guys just turned in because they're just like left in here? So I'm not exactly sure which one to grade.
Oh my god, that's a constructor. Whoa.
Is Norm out here? All right, so if we distribute first. What do we get on the left-hand side? Can anyone talk me through it? Aiden?
Oh, wait. Oh,
If we distribute, I'm going to do the two different processes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to do 3 times 6, which is 6x. Then you have to do 3 times 12, which is 12. So you have 6x is 12. And over -6.
Sweet. So then I could,
Add 6.
yeah, variable, constant, constant. I could add 6, but it's not the right choice here.
No, because then you just have, you wouldn't have a constant on the other side of those things. You
So
take away 12.
instead we take away 12. We get 6x is equal to, careful, negative
So then you divide by
18.
6, which is 6. No, sorry.
Now, did anyone start by dividing first? We're going to compare these two solutions. All you need to do is have one of these methods written down in your notes. But sorry to tell you, this way is easier.
What?
The division first.
No.
Watch. If I divide first, I'm dividing everything by 3, but this is all multiplied by 3, so it really only happens here. And then I divide everything over there by 3. My left side now just becomes, sorry, that's a little high up, 2x plus 4, because I got rid of that multiplication of 3. My right side, well, negative divided by positive gives me negative 2. Now we minus 4. Now wait a minute, I just said this method is easier. Is easy like a factual statement?
No.
No.
Easier for some people.
Here's why I say it's easier. There's no difference in the amount of steps that we take. There's no real difference in the process that we take. We divide it on both sides. Well, we divide it on both sides over there. We subtract it on both sides. We subtract it on both sides over. Easier in this instance just means less opportunity to goof it up. If I distribute, I might forget to do the second multiplication. Right? When you start moving fast, you forget silly things that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
If I take the left-hand route, I might accidentally add 12 or something. Easier does not mean right versus wrong. Both methods get you to the same place. You can choose, and I'm not saying right versus wrong. I'm going to points, but you have the power here. So today's lesson, idea is literally choosing a strategy, whichever works for you. Whatever in your brain you say is easiest, that's your right strategy. I'm not going to tell you what's right. I'll tell you what answer's right, but we got the same answer either way. So it's up to you which way you choose. Cool? I'm trying to give you the power. I've got the power.
Yeah.
No. What? Probably 90s
Not
rock
that
jocks.
song. Oh, I never heard that song.
That was definitely on the what was it? Jock jams. Yeah. All right, we're building a chicken coop. Anyone here have chickens? I saw I'm really jealous. Yeah. How many chickens do you have?
I have 6.
6. How many eggs do you end up
No,
getting?
yours
normally?
died. No, they didn't. When did they not die?
When did they not die? The whole time that they've been alive. So you get eggs from your chickens?
They're all female, so there's no babies, so we don't have to worry about that.
Kenny, why haven't I had any eggs from your chickens?
Because
Can I buy some from you?
she knows she'll break them on the bus. No. Yeah.
I will come pick them up. I would love some fresh chicken eggs. All right, moving on. We're going to help build a chicken coop for Cisco and Misty.
Aw, too cute.
So, the hens, what's the difference between a hen and a chicken?
Oh, a hen.
It's a male and
what-
a
what-
female.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's let Skylar, the expert, answer.
Or not.
So,
But
she just said it. Yeah. Say it again.
No, but 2 other people said it.
Layla, talking at the same time as somebody else seems to be a problem.
Miss Millard says that all the time. Nuh-uh. She doesn't like what I call it.
Here's where this one's difficult, guys, and expect this to be what you see on your mastery, kind of like on your mini mastery last week. I'm not just going to straight up give you so many x plus this constant. I'm going to give you a situation like in the real world, which I hate when I say things to you, but like you read through your books and you do these things at school and you're like, oh, it's all fake, it doesn't matter. Like, this is the math you're actually going to do in the real world. So, the hens need at least 108 square feet of living space. Now that means square feet. What does that tell us? What is square feet talking about? Area, right? So this is area for them. So you might jot that down in your paper. Area at least 108. The space allows Cisco and Misty to make the length of the coop. Here's some information. The length of the coop is 3 feet longer than the width. So the length, we could say L, will be 3 feet longer than the width. If they want to create an area of exactly 108 square feet, what will the dimensions be? So, here's what you have to figure out with your team. How do I represent what we've been told? And how do we make our length and width come out to have an area of 108 square feet, given that the length is 3 feet longer than the width? You can 5D process, you can use an equation, you can do whatever you want. Choose a process. Go. If I run home on planning period, I will pick up the other rack and discs and stuff. I think I'm now going to keep in my back pocket disc dyeing for the May term class if it rains. Because if it rains, can't dye. Yeah, dye like, yeah. But Friday, I drove down to the flats to go throw around after work. Pull in, there's a Jeep and a Mustang sitting there. And I was like, I know who has these vehicles. Uplock Paul and Patrick, his one son, finishing up a round. We then ended up playing another round together. And Paul's like, I've been meaning to, bro. We've got some discs at home that like none of us are going to throw again. So those are from Paul Roman. Yeah, so those can go down in the closet if you want to figure out in after this. How do we find area? Length times width, right? The product of these two numbers. Should we make the length or the width have our variable?
The width.
The width, right? Because they tell us the length is 3 more than the width. And then we can just say, well, the width is the width. So our area, if I was just jotting some things down, our area will be length times width, which is really W plus 3 times W. Right? That's our area's length times width. They tell us length and width.
Wow.
So, wow. Or did you use wow in sector?
Wow.
Does it make sense?
Just like the wow.
Okay. So then, if we 5D process, right, what about a width of, I don't know, 5? So we could set up a little width, length, area. Actually, I'm gonna start bigger than that. If I start with 10, then 13, they tell us, and dude, we talked about this out loud all together, 108 being square feet is area, not perimeter. We're talking area. So here, if I guess the width to be 10, length will be 13. It's too big. So if I bump back down to, I don't know, 8
Wait, what?
and 11, I'm just guessing, right? 5D. You guys have to do the 5D process. To what's 8 times 11?
Oh, I know where I messed up.
8. Okay, I guess I gotta try 9 and 12. Ah. Now, there is a genuinely easier way to solve this. No guessing involved.
Whoa.
Now, at some point, you're going to get tired of being wrong,
Yeah.
right? And if you play video games or board games or things like that, like you start to have this like, man, if I can be right on try one, if I can beat the boss on the first time through, like I want to, right? Because I want to, my time is worthwhile, especially once you start working. Guys, when you think about I could waste my time doing this problem 5 times, or I could do this problem once and then go work and make money. Once you guys start working, you'll really appreciate your time. So instead of saying easier, what I'm going to say here is faster. The faster way to solve this, draw a squiggly line on your paper.
How you write it on the back? I know, that's what I'm saying.
We just set up this. Does anybody have questions on how we set up this? So the area is going to be length times width, and this is our length. So if I was you, please, I would rewrite this as W times W plus 3 just because it will be easier for your brain. Same problem. Same problem.
Times W?
A faster way. Once we distribute, now this is where we're taking another step forward. A number times itself. We just talked about this last week. Squared. So it's W squared plus 3W equals 108. Here's the problem, and this is where I want to make you hungry.
But I'm not hungry.
Not hungry for food. If I took this problem, put it in front of my 8th grade class. Right now, they're even more advanced in 8th grade math. They could solve it like that. Literally, just one step. They could jump from this one step, maybe type a little something in their calculator. They could solve it in one step. We don't yet know how to do this. So, this is faster, but only if you know how to do it. So, with us having done algebra already, you might be tempted to distribute this and set this up and you get here. But at this point, I have a W squared and a regular W. We don't really know what to do with that. We have 7th grade, and that's fine. You don't need to know. They're not like terms. So remember, W squared and W are not like terms. I like that you said that, but on your paper, we might as well write that we can't add.
Okay.
So right now, even though, and this again is, I've changed how I've taught this year versus last year, even though this would be a faster route, we don't know how to take that route right now. So for us, the 5D process was probably the best strategy. Now, that almost hurts me to say because I don't love the 5D process. I appreciate it for what it is, but my brain is so stuck with algebra because that's what I learned. It's weird for me to tell you, yeah, the 5D process is the best. But guys, analyze the situation you have. Sometimes we can get through it with the algebra. Here, we couldn't. We don't know what to do. Sometimes the 5D process is just easier. Sometimes it's the only thing we know how to do. Like, we don't know how to solve this. Now, we could still 5D process with this, where we guess and check. So if I take this and 5D process with it, if I try what if W's 8, and you don't have to write this down, but at this point, we would have like 8 squared plus 3 times 8. Does it equal 108? We could still 5D process with this, but we can't algebra solve this. You guys don't know how yet, and you're not supposed to know how yet.
Wait, doesn't 8 squared be like 8 times 8 over
It'd be 8 times 8. Yeah, so this would be 64 plus 24, and that's not big enough, so we would know this doesn't work out.
If it's like an 8, there's like 8 times 8 times 8.
That'd be 8 cubed.
Yeah, so it's not
So,
8 times.
if we try this with what if it was 9 squared plus 3 times 9, it does come out to be 108. That's how we get 9 4-hour lists. Still algebra, but If you wanted to actually solve that, Jalen, with algebra, you would have to use what's called the Quadratic Formula, or you'd have to be able to factor it, which you also don't know how to do quite yet. So, with 131, I want to challenge you, can we solve it with our algebra process? So they set up for you, I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do this on your own, they set up for you everything they tell you. They also set up one round of guess, right, through the 5D process. They guessed 5, and they figure out it's too small. I want you and your team, really it's not a can we, I need you to figure out how can we use algebra here, because we can. We know enough in this situation to solve all the way through with algebra. Any questions on what you're trying to do? You're taking what they've set up for you, and you're going to turn it into the algebra equation. Some nonsense over here equals some number, and then we solve it from there. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, dive in. I'll circulate around if you have any questions. You are turning what they have done into algebra that in this case would be easier and faster. You do not need to copy down their table. You are taking what they did and just doing the algebra that we could do to solve it. I'll be more specific. This is taking some of the fun out of it, but I'll be more specific.
23 is too small.
This is all they would really need to set up.
So we just have
Because
to
it involves this and this and
We
this.
just solved it.
We are solving for x.
Oh.
We are solving for you do not need to copy the 5D process.
But I'm right so much.
Because here the algebra is easier. Here the algebra is easier. So I would write down what's highlighted in green, and then we're going to take it from there.
I hate McDonald's.
Like what's in that green box. Because that's everything put together, right? Is he not here, right?
Driving a grounding round yesterday.
How far is that over here down? What?
So I had trying to get, I have a sledgehammer, a 10-pound sledge, but I couldn't use it at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Did you have one of those collar things?
Very wobbly, so I that was pretty foolish.
I think she was get up on a ladder and start swinging the sledgehammer with the 30-mile-an-hour winds.
My ladder, when I got up, the ladder was actually moving.
That was awesome. Dude, I went outside yesterday and I made the joke of taking down the Christmas lights, and then I went outside an hour later and a few of them had blown, some of the strand had blown itself off. And I was like, nature's doing it on its own.
The woodman is gone.
Yeah, Dave and I talked about it.
Oh, my pencil.
If you really want to lose a disc,
Right.
what kind of shape are we dealing with here? A triangle. So there are how many sides? 3. And we know what about those sides?
That they all have options.
And they all add up to 35. So, if you were sitting there confused, because I heard a lot of conversation that was kind of off topic, and I decided to jump back in. If you're sitting there confused, we have side 1 that keeps getting referenced. Right? That's why it got the variable. It is the one being referenced. Side 2, when we compare it to side 1, is 2 longer than the first one. Side 3 is 4 longer than the second one. So that's why it's x plus 2 plus 4. It's another 4 more than the second one. Or they could have said it's 6 more than the first one. So now if we start to clean things up, gotta go back to some cards. Alana, how do we clean this up? Absolutely. So good, it almost made me choke. We add like terms. Why? What is your upsetedness?
No, because I did that one thing. Yeah, the distribution.
Why?
Okay, you can because in my brain that's easier. No, it's
Is there a number up against parentheses?
no. Yeah. Oh my god.
There's no distribution to be done here.
I was wondering why I couldn't get
Ask the question then.
It has a plus.
So, hold up. This is good. We're finding like where those errors are. There's no distribution here because there's no number multiplied by the parentheses. I agree there's parentheses, but right now they're just grouping. Those are associative parentheses. They don't do anything else. They associate the numbers together. So, Alana, if I add my x's together, how many x's in total? 3x. If I add my constants together, what's that total? 8. And that all equals 35. What do we do on both sides, class? Take away the 8. Careful with subtracting 8. Sometimes that gets fishy. 27. Yeah, because the 8 breaks up into 3 and 5, and sometimes that confuses people. So we have 3x equals 27. Class, what do we do here? Divide by 3.
This side. Oh my god.
Divide by 3. You are correct. And x equals... Now hold on. In your test, and this is where some of you would get it wrong, you move on to the next question and you haven't actually answered what I asked. The test would say, what are the 3 lengths of your triangle? Greta? 9, 11, and 15. X might be 9, but then I gotta add 2 to find the second side. And then I gotta add 4 more to find the third side. And now we're done. We weren't done just when we found X. We gotta find all 3 sides.
Oh my god.
Does this make sense? Really, I should rephrase that. What questions do we have? Right. I mean, pitch it to me. What do you think would be faster? Isn't that what I did? I just took a while to do it. You're right. Like that's the fastest way, pretty much. We could slow it down. We could like make a step where we take away the parentheses and move things around, do the commutative property. So guys, remember, we're far up in the year. There's stuff we're not showing here. Like there's a step in here where we take away the parentheses and move stuff around, but because we're good at this point, we don't have to show that. So remember, the commutative property lets me add things that aren't next to each other, but I know that because they're like terms, I can move them to be next to each other. So there is a step where I move stuff around, but we skipped that right in here.
I remember that distributive property we like in first grade. I like this math. There's like distributive property, commutative property.
Well, now they totally changed. Between your first grade experience and this year, well, really 2 or 3 years ago, we changed a lot of stuff on you guys.
We're about to be in 8th grade. It's like, oh my god, we're gonna go to high school.
You guys realize we have 7 school days? Like, not counting Discovery Days, we have 7 school days till spring break.
No.
Then when we come back from spring break, we only have in-class days, I think we have like 30. In class. Like, not total, but if you take out travel and everything else. All right, look at 132 on your own. I'm going to read it to get you set up. Apiologists, which are bee scientists, have found that the number and types of bees in a hive is based on the amount of nectar and pollen available. Makes sense. Within a hive are 3 types of bees that help the queen. Workers, drones, and nurses. This is all real.
Nurses?
In a recent study of a hive, it was found that there were a total of 4,109 bees, not including the queens. We don't really count. The queen is like the center of the hive. Without the queen, the hive goes elsewhere. there were 39 more nurses than there were drones. So right now they're comparing nurses to drones. Nurses have more. The number of workers was 12 more than 6 times the number of drones. Again, we reference drones while talking about something else. And that they need a lot of worker bees. The worker bee is the ones that go out and gather everything. So, how many of each type of bee was in the hive? You may solve this in any way you want, but there is an easiest, fastest, best way to solve it. Dive in. I'm going to highlight stuff. You should have your books. You should have everything you need right in front of you. Well, I'm not going to move the screen, but if I'm in your way, that's kind of your fault. Yeah, so the only reason you need a book is if I'm in your way. And then it's your fault that you don't have a book. You know what I mean? 3 more, 33 more. The thing that keeps getting referenced gets the variable. Sometimes it's nice to set up the 5D. Even if we're not going to use the 5D process, it's nice to organize all my information using that table method. So we've got drones, nurses, and workers. The drones got the reference, right? People talked about the drones. It died just out of nowhere.
The one I had, I did the same thing, and it was like something crazy.
I don't know if the thing is working really hard.
Yeah, I kind of
My rack didn't come out exactly how I wanted because the glue was kind of old and started to set really fast, and I couldn't rotate the other piece that I needed to get the center like hypotenuses to the bottom one didn't ever get connected because I couldn't get it where I mean it's still sturdy enough. Well, I think my update on Reddit is going to be like, don't build this rack. Build like 2 smaller ones. Like it was just too many angles, too much pain in the butt. Too many variables, if you will. Right? I mean, that's a possibility too. Then you could just organize by type of plastic. Dude, we need to have Patrick come over and like help teach the kids. He was teaching me stuff when we were out there. Yeah,
Probably willing.
SpongeBob. What is SpongeBob have to do with Patrick? No, I know.
We have drones, nurses, and workers, right? So at a minimum, if you don't know anything, you know what we have. Drones, nurses, workers. That's at least a start, and you know the total is 4,109. So at a minimum, just put something on your paper. Then go back and say, what else can I put on my paper? So Ava, what else can I put on my paper? Yeah, you do. What's up there in yellow?
33 more. Oh.
So how do I write that mathematically?
So wait, D minus 30? No.
There were 33 more, chill. There were 33 more nurses than drones.
So then you do N plus 33.
Not N plus 33. They're telling us about the nurses.
Oh, so they're D plus 33.
So where the nurses are, we can replace this with D plus 33. Where the workers are, what can I replace that with?
The workers are D times 6.
Yeah, but I'm going to write that with the 6 first.
So, yeah, D plus 12.
Are there any questions on how I filled that stuff? D plus 33, and 6 times our drones, and 12 more. And then drones, of course, are just D. Now, we could start our 5D process, but that's not the best way. At this point, the best way, D plus 33 plus 6D plus 12. What do I do with all that? But I'm also going to set it
Equals.
Eva. What do I do now?
Alright. Okay.
What are you doing on the computer back there?
The calculator. Alright, so what I did was I combined
Yeah, you're right. I just wanted to bring you back because you guys were on the computer and not really paying attention to what we were doing. You were probably on topic. I just wanted to make sure you were with us. D, D, and 6D. How many Ds?
70.
8D.
I said 8, I'm sorry.
Be careful. How many constants? 33 and 12.
45.
45. Variable term, constant term, constant term.
No, we want to kill that constant.
I'll get rid of or
45.
push somewhere else.
Subtract 45.
Practice.
No, Mr. Hudson, are you listening to me? I mean,
How did he know to subtract 45?
no, I knew how to do that, but I mean, like, how do you know how to do 4,109
Because I say
Oh, I don't
4,109.
minus 45?
That we have to do it on both sides. Remember,
Okay, I'm saying, how can you do 4,109
I can do the
minus 45
subtraction.
in your head?
I can't. What I do is I can take 5 away,
Yeah.
right? That gets me to 4104. Then, instead of taking 40 away, you could either say, how do I get to 4100? That's 4 more, right? And there's still 36 more to take away. So I really do 4100 minus 36. Because I take away these 9. So Abe and I are having a conversation about mental subtraction. I take away the 9, which leaves me with 36 more to take away. And really what I'm doing is this. It's just breaking up the subtraction. It's already, or get a calculator.
It's 74.
So
4,074.
See, I don't know how to do that.
64. You gotta borrow.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
You gotta borrow it. So 40, 64. We then divide by 8.
Ooh, that's too much. I need.
Now wait, on your test, sorry, what was this? 508. You would then need to solve how many nurses, how many workers, and still present how many drones.
That way
Cool?
I'm good at Untitled Chapter to show that.
If you are caught up and working ahead, you can go ahead and start closure if you want. Otherwise, please make sure you get done 627 tonight. We will take questions tomorrow on 627 and just work on your closure. Thank you guys very much. Awesome.
Have a good day, Mr.
Have a wonderful day.
It's not going to take me all day to just kill your